What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron. We're recording at a little bit of a different time right now. It's like about noon. I usually record at night, so I'm picking like this small pocket in my neighborhood where there aren't people mowing their lawns, blowing leaves everywhere. Literally just had to wait for like the last 20 minutes for everything to sort of quiet down, settle down here, but we're going to lock it in. I figure a nice way of, transitioning kind of from dynasty into redraft season is by covering my favorite rookie values in redraft leagues. So we're still going to talk about rookies, but we're going to talk about them through a redraft lens. And I think rookie wide receivers in particular are really interesting because we've seen the past few years league winners be rookie wide receivers. We've had down the stretch last year, you had Amon-Ra St. Brown's like crazy 5 to 6 game stretch. You had Jamar Chase blow up in the fantasy finals. Waddle finished as the wide receiver 15. Before that, you had Claypool, Ayuk, Justin Jefferson. The year before that, A.J. Brown, Debo, so on and so forth. So we want to kind of zero in here on the evidence behind rookie wide receivers and how they help us win leagues, as well as possibly leveraging my prospect model and looking at sort of the strength of prospects and how we can project those guys moving forward. So we're going to talk about my favorite rookies that I'm drafting here, and then we're also going to zero in on how rookie wide receivers help us win our league. So with that being said, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Thirsty, trying to choose. I know I'm critical. My nitty bag.
So a little bit of a rough dismount into the intro, but couldn't find the button. We're doing this one take Drake style. I'm getting this out one day, flipping it out in one day. But when we talk about rookie wide receivers, it's one thing for me to say that they are cheat codes because they are. I can kind of just list Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. I can neglect and just sort of leave out Jalen Reagor and N'Keal Harry's of the world, act like those never happened. But when you come to this channel, when you click on the Ron Stewart page, videos, all that, I really want to make sure that, and I know this is kind of like cheesy, I really want to make sure that we're backing things up with data. I don't just want to tell you guys stuff. I could spin a narrative pretty well. I can turn on the camera. I can just ramble about a couple rookie wide receivers and call it a day. And, list again. I can just list off Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, and say, hey, these guys are league winners. But I want to back that up with data. So when we look at rookie wide receivers, they don't necessarily have a better hit rate overall, right, than any random wide receiver in their range. But they have a pretty massive ceiling at a discounted price. And that's kind of the whole idea of targeting rookie wide receivers. It's not, I actually got into a little bit of a back and forth with Jacob Rickroad on Twitter, who's like kind of like a fantasy OG. He used to play like early 2000s. He had like his own podcast. Now he's kind of retired and he just hangs out on Twitter. But he was just saying, rookie wide receivers, their hit rate isn't great, so he doesn't like drafting them. The thing is that rookie wide receivers, they don't go in the first 5 rounds. They go usually outside of the top 60 picks. So when you get there, I think it's fine to swing on upside, and rookie wide receivers are a great way to do this. Now, how I can kind of show you guys that they have a massive ceiling is we're going to be using best ball win rates from RotoViz. Now, when I bring up best ball win rates, people immediately say best ball can't be applied to redraft. It's not relevant for my home league. Here's the thing with best ball win rates and why I love them so much. This is data from thousands of drafts quantifying the percent of teams that won it all with said player. There's no other way to compile this much data, thousands of drafts over the entire summer. There's no other way to show how impactful a player is besides best ball win rate. In my eyes, in such a macro degree. And on the surface, best ball win rates just show the percent of teams that won their leagues with that player on their roster. And these aren't playoff formats, right? So these are best ball 10s, I believe, which is like fan ball. It's not, of course, you guys know we're rocking with Underdog, but RotoViz doesn't have that data yet. I'm sure eventually in years to come, they'll kind of get a partnership going. But when you look at it, the type of contest we're looking at, the winner isn't made in those final 4 weeks. It's just simply whoever has the most points at the end of the season. So it's not skewed towards weeks 15, 16, 17. It's very much a complete view of over a whole season how impactful was that player. Now, we're all playing in 12-man leagues, or these are 12-man leagues in the data. So 8.3% win rate is average, as it's just 1 divided by 12. So anything below 8.3 is not good. Anything above is pretty good. 10% plus is good. 15 to 20% is really, really good. And then 20% or above is amazing. And when we look at the data, this is from the RotoViz best ball win rate I'm trying to think of even what it's called, but it's like the Best Ball Win Rate Explorer or something. And since 2015, there have been 617 wide receivers drafted outside of the first 5 rounds of best ball drafts. Now, 617, the way you got to that is they only count a wide receiver in their database if they've been drafted 100 times. So there's like thousands of drafts. If they've been drafted 100 times, they registered there. So there's been 617 wide receivers drafted outside of the first 5 rounds since 2015. 18% of that pool have been rookie wide receivers. The crazy part is that despite only making up 18% of the pool, they make up 30% of the top 50 wide receiver seasons in best ball win rate as a whole. So what I did was I searched on the Best Ball Win Rate Explorer by win rate, pulled up the top 50, and then went through and was like, okay, this was his rookie year. This was his rookie year. So 30% of the top 50 wide receiver seasons in best ball win rate came from rookies. Of the top 10 wide receiver seasons in win rate, 40% of them came from rookies. So at the top end, you are getting massive, massive spike seasons from these rookies. Again, when you just look at the numbers and you look at if they only make up 18% of the entire field, the fact that they are, out there making up 30% of the top 50 win rate seasons, it's like they're almost pretty much like doubling what they're expected in terms of top 50 and almost tripling the expected amount in the top 10. So that's really great. When we're talking about the top 10, those 4 guys, right? So 4 out of 10 is 40%. Justin Jefferson, his rookie year, Terry McLaurin, Jamar Chase, and then surprisingly, Brandon Ayuk. Top 4 guys in win rate. Then you go to top 50, you have guys like Waddle, Claypool, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Michael Thomas was really good, T. Higgins, Calvin Ridley, Deebo Samuel, some other guys, like even like Hunter Renfrow, guys who went like just like super, super late. I would consider Amon-Ra St. Brown one of those guys too, as just like almost like an 18th round type flyer. And the best part about these guys is they not only give you access to the highest ceilings late in drafts, right, with really high win rates and showing up at the highest win rates more than veterans across the board, they are also supercharged in the playoff weeks. They give you massive ceilings down the stretch. And this is a really, really great graph, like sort of research article that Jack Miller did last offseason. And we really want to be honing in on these playoff weeks because that's when we bring home the money, right? When we go out there and we crush in the playoffs. And Jack Miller over at Establish the Run, he did some really great research where he broke down kind of, as the season goes on, what does veteran point per game look like and what does rookie wide receiver point per game look like side by side. And as you guys can see, the red line is rookies, green line is veterans. The rookies go up while the veterans kind of decline. So rookies generally increase their fantasy production during the season while veterans decrease their production in fantasy. So you can kind of like almost construct rosters where you can kind of like, or I think naturally it sort of just happens, but you sort of front load with veterans early on. They're going to carry you through the front end of the season. Then the back end, you take a couple flyers on some rookie wide receivers, and on the back end, those can be the guys that supercharge your lineups on the back half of the season. So with all of that being said, we now see very clearly that rookie wide receivers have a higher ceiling than any other wide receivers going outside of the top 60 picks. Now, again, we're not saying that they are the safer picks in terms of hit rate. They are probably at the same, if not less than veterans, but on the aggregate, they are giving you crazy upside. They're giving you a supercharged cheat code type, aspect to your team in the fantasy playoffs, which we really, really care about, which means we should be probably drafting rookie wide receivers more often across the board than we already are. So now it's time to sort of we're going to zoom in on 5 rookie wide receivers that I've been targeting this offseason already. And the first guy we're going to talk about is Garrett Wilson, who at this point is not only my most owned wide receiver through 50 plus BBM3 puppy drafts. By the way, fellas, as you guys can see, I'm literally already in 52 drafts at this point. I'm going crazy on Underdog. I really can't trust enough, fellas. I say this all the time. I would never push something to you guys that I don't believe in or use myself. I push the Patreon. I use the Patreon. I use the Dynasty rankings. I literally go through, cross them off when I'm drafting. I look at the rookie rankings when I'm drafting in rookie drafts. I eat at my own restaurant. On Underdog, you guys know, I took down a tournament last year. It wasn't a big tournament or anything, but just a little playoff tournament. I got a ring to show for it. If you run into a lobby on Underdog against me, in one of these best ball draft library or lobbies is what I was trying to say. I don't know why I said libraries, but if you run into me, you'll see I got a red shield. Red shield means that I got like one of the most drafts completed on the entire app. Like I'm really a grinder in these Underdog streets, and the true OGs knew that I did an Underdog strategy video last year before I even hit up Underdog. and was like, please, like I was literally begging them to give me a promo code. Like I used the hell out of this app. I would not push it to you if I wasn't using it myself. As you guys know, I won that tournament. You can go out there. You can make real money if you're out there grinding, if you're out there using good strategies in terms of best ball. I'm going to be coming out probably in the next 2 weeks with like an underdog best ball strategy video. But if you want to go out there, get on there a little bit earlier. Use my promo code Ron. It'll be down below in the description. It'll be down below in the comments. Use my promo code Ron when you hop on there. You deposit $10. They'll match $10. And they'll do that all the way up to 100. So if you deposit 100, they'll match 100. And right now, I think the puppy is like 45% full. I know we've been pushing the Best Ball Mania 3, which is like a $25 to enter, $2 million up top. But if you want to kind of get your feet wet this early, the puppy tournaments are really, really good, but they're only out for limited times. It's like almost 40% full by now. It's only been open maybe like a week or two. They fill really fast, the puppies, man. So I'm rushing to get in there. I don't think I'm going to be able to max it out, but if you want to get some puppies in there, some $5 entries with like upside for like, I think like 70K at the top or something crazy, hop on there now. Use my promo code Ron. Now, through 50 drafts, Garrett Wilson's not only my favorite, or not only my most draft wide receiver, he is my most draft player, period. 32.7% of my teams in the puppy and in Best Ball Mania 3 have Garrett Wilson on them. He is just such a smash at ADP to me. Now, when we talk about Garrett Wilson, let's just first talk about him as a prospect. He's a very strong prospect. He's kind of this like slender Jerry Jeudy type, or not even Jerry Jeudy, but like I guess Jerry Jeudy is kind of like the median, but like Stephon Diggs, Calvin Ridley, like smooth operator, great route runner. Not that I can watch the routes and say that myself, but just from what I've heard from other people, that's not what I'm looking for. But he's truly a stud, man. He gets drafted top 10 in the NFL draft. His year 2 was really, really impressive. His year 2, he had the highest yards per team pass attempt, which is my favorite metric I look at for these rookie wide receivers. It's literally just receiving yards divided by pass attempts. And it's kind of like a target share metric where it goes over how much you're dominating the offense, but it's also, are you efficient? So it's almost like it's not a 1-for-1, but it's almost like if you combined like target share and yards per out run into one. It kind of highlights these similar type of aspects from both into one. And you had a 3.21 despite being in the same room as Jackson Smith-Njigba, Olave, and Jameson Williams in that year 2. JMO went 11th overall, I believe, or 12th overall. JSN is going to go top 5 next year. Olave went 11th or 12th overall. It's just crazy what he did. Now, his year 3 isn't so great. He kind of fell off a little bit. Jackson Smith-Njigba then had his crazy year 2. I'm not going to say he was like forgotten a little bit. He still was sort of by the threshold, but it just wasn't as massive of a year as his year 2. His year 2 can go toe-to-toe with guys like on this list. You have Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's supposed to go like top 5-ish next year. Jamar Chase, who we know that he's an absolute dog. And Chase competed with J. Jeff and JSN competed with Garrett Wilson and Olave. Again, Garrett Wilson competed with not only Jackson Smith-Njigba and Olave, but he also had Jameson Williams as the wide receiver 4 on that team. So with that in mind, he graded out really well in my prospect model. He graded out as an elite prospect. And what that means is he graded out well in my RS grading system, which is my prospect model, and he got put into the bucket called elite. Now, the way that my model works is you have RS grades where you get put on a 0 through 10 scale, but based on that, you get put into a prospect tier, which is really important. Legendary hit top 24 seasons at a 100% rate, elite 85%, gold 45%, silver 25%, bronze 6%. So he is in a really good spot. Legendary is only like a couple guys ever, right? We have like Odell Beckham, Amari Cooper, Watkins, Julio, maybe AJ Green, Des Bryant, like a very small Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, very small, like really, really top tier stuff. Elite is still great. And why it matters is because I wanted to go out there and find win rates across sort of look through a 1-year lens with these prospect rates. And hold on, let me pull this picture up real quick. All right, so I found the screenshot I was looking for. And with Wilson falling into elite tier, the reason why this matters is because I found the average win rate for these rookie wide receivers in each of my prospect tiers. Now, again, 8.3% win rate being the average. Legendary wide receivers are pretty crazy. 13.5% win rate in best ball. Elite 9.8%. That's also really good with 8.3% being the average. And then pretty much from there, it sort of falls off where you have gold at 7.3%. You have silver at 8% actually, and bronze at 6%. Now, pretty much None of these rookie wide receivers are beating average win rates besides legendary and elite wide receivers. So we want to be targeting them. And then we want to just take shots on golds and silvers late. Those guys just pop later on. You have like T. Higgins in that range. You have like Amon-Ra St. Brown in that range. And then generally avoiding bronzes. And the reason I love Wilson because of this just boils down to this, is we want to be targeting elite wide receivers because on average, they have way better win rates than average. And the reason why I really like Wilson is it's pretty simple. There's 3 elite wide receiver prospects in this class. There's no legendary, sadly. Wilson is the cheapest by a lot. I think it's pretty ridiculous that when you look at this chart, this is of ADP, he is 30 picks past London and Burks. And you have, it's just like, it's a crazy tier break for me for prospects that I believe are very similar or in the same tier. I think that you could say the same thing like in Dynasty. All 3 of these guys are viewed in that top tier. You have London up top, you have Burks. I think this 30 pick gap is too much. You have Drake London at 68.3, you have Garrett Wilson at 98.1. And I understand that we're talking about redraft and situation has to play into it a certain amount. But let's talk about his situation real quick, actually. He has a quarterback in Zach Wilson, which isn't great. He has some target competition in Elijah Moore. But I don't know how Zach Wilson and a young Elijah Moore are significantly worse than Drake London's situation of Marcus Mariota and Kyle Pitts. Mariota goes later on than Zach Wilson does in best ball drafts. And Kyle Pitts is a 3rd-round pick while Elijah Moore is a 6th-round pick. So he has stronger competition and a worse quarterback by the market size. So it just doesn't make sense to me why there's a 30-pick discount. Now, again, I have Drake London and Treylon Burks ahead of Garrett Wilson in my rankings, in my Dynasty rankings. I believe that Garrett Wilson should probably be in between Devonta Smith and DeAndre Hopkins for me. That's probably where I would have him. I don't really understand why he's all the way down this low. And if you want to talk about Treylon Burks, I guess he has a slightly better situation where he has Ryan Tannehill and a guy that can actually throw. But with losing A.J. Brown, this is going to be a low-volume pass offense. They're going to run through Derrick Henry. I also think that Robert Woods, even though he's coming off an ACL, is going to command targets. You have Julio Jones, who could get signed by Tennessee again. It's tough. It's tough for me to say that they have such great situation that they should be valued this much higher. So I'm going to keep drafting Garrett Wilson until the market corrects. By the way, I also love Treylon Burks and Drake London. I think that their prices are pretty much fine. Again, I just think that it's Garrett Wilson that's off. It's not so much that I have a gripe with London and Burks' ADP. It's just that Wilson should be right next to those guys, not next to an Olave. I think that he is a clear tier head of an Olave. So again, I'll be drafting him until the market corrects. As well, I like Burks and London. I just think that they're pretty obvious, so I don't even really want to talk about them today. But the next wide receiver we're going to talk about is Jameson Williams. And he is really, really fun because he is, now, not all of these wide receivers we're going to talk about through a best ball lens perspective, but Jameson Williams is going to be the guy we're going to talk about through that perspective because if you wanted to build a wide receiver if you wanted to build in a lab the best ball tournament wide receiver, that would be Jameson Williams because he is this perfect prospect where, or not prospect, but almost like upside case where, again, with rookie wide receivers, they backload those points. So in best ball, in a tournament where you want to finish up at the top end and you need to be supercharged in those final 3 weeks of the tournament, because in the tournament you're going to advance out of your first week, right? If we're talking about like the puppy, you're advancing out of your first 12-man league into a huge sprint the last 3 weeks in playoffs. So you need a guy that can give you boom weeks. You need a rookie that's going to go crazy on the back end. Last year, a lot of the top money teams had Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamar Chase. So with Jameson Williams, I understand that he tore his ACL, right? But again, if rookie wide receivers are going to backload those points, we don't care a whole lot about him starting slow because of the ACL, him missing a couple games in the beginning. The beauty of it is that the whole thesis of drafting these rookie wide receivers is for the explosion they're going to give you on the back end of the season, at least in best ball tournaments. So we still have access to that upside. And then on top of that, you have a situation where you are now getting a discount for the ACL. So he's now being priced in a better spot. And Jameson Williams is also a best ball wide receiver in a nutshell. He is that Will Fuller archetype of just being a spike week wide receiver with 4.2 speed. He has legit 4.2 type speed. He beat cover 4 against Georgia like multiple times. Georgia DBs who are going to be in the NFL. He will be liable to have insane boom weeks. And these are his game logs from last year. He had 1,500 plus yards on the year in total, 15 touchdowns, and a 20-yard per reception rate on only 78 catches. Only 78 catches and having 1,500 yards and 15 touchdowns is insane. The game logs were crazy, as you guys can see. He had a game where he had 190 yards and 3 touchdowns against Arkansas. That's a SEC defense. Against Georgia, 7 for 184 and 2 against legit NFL DB. Same with LSU. Even though I don't think LSU is really, they had Stingley. I don't know if Stingley was healthy, but LSU is going to be a spot that always has good DBs. 10, 160 and 1. You have a game 6, 158 and 3. I know that's New Mexico State there, but 158 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 catches is just wild, man. Against Miami, 4 catches, 126 yards and a touchdown. He doesn't even need the ball a ton, and he can give you these large blow-up games. Now, I know that he's going to be in the NFL. It's not going to be quite the same, but you're going to see, I don't even want to get crazy with it, but I don't know if you guys know that Randy Moss game log where he had 3 catches for 180 yards and 3 touchdowns or something crazy like that. If Jameson Williams comes out there and in week 12, week 13, he gives you 3 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns or something crazy, it wouldn't catch me. It wouldn't catch me by surprise at all. And what it boils down with Jameson Williams is in this range, I don't know who else is giving you that kind of upside. I don't see a ton of league-winning upside in this area. You have Michael Gallup, you have Tyler Boyd, who's just Tyler Boyd's just the double condom, super safe pick. Rondale Moore, I'm not in love with. Kenny Golladay, I guess, is interesting. McCole Hardman, I'm good on. Tim Patrick, super low floor. Devontae Parker, I'm good on. When I get to this range in a draft, Jameson Williams is the only home run swing in this range in my eyes among those wide receivers. So I love Jameson Williams. He's one of my most drafted rookie wide receivers right now, especially in those best ball tournaments where you don't care if he's going to give you some clunkers in the first 3 to 4 weeks. You're hoping that from weeks 10 on, he gives you spike weeks, he becomes a league winner. That is all in his range of outcomes if he is as good as advertised. The film grinders absolutely love him. I'm also bought in on Jameson Williams. I have a couple shares in Dynasty. Even though he didn't break out early, I can give him a pass for competing with JSN, Olave, Garrett Wilson, especially because he went to Alabama and dominated right away. So it's not a perfect situation on the Lions with Jared Goff, but that offense should be not terrible this year. They have Goff, they have Swift, their O-line's very good. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams now, Chark, Hawkinson. They have legit weapons, and Goff has supported a good offense before. Now, I know McVay's not there. I don't expect him to have similar numbers to when he was with the Rams, but I think he'll be able to support this offense enough for them to be fantasy relevant. Now, when we move on from here, we're going to go to a guy that I didn't like in Dynasty. I actually have 1 share of Jahan Dotson, sadly, but he's actually really great for redraft. And again, I've been on record, I don't really love Dotson as a prospect. He grades out as a silver in the first round. That's not a great, cohort to be in terms of first round silvers. I think it's I'm trying to think. I think Ayuk is in there. So there are some hits there, but when we're in redraft, we're approaching things a little bit differently, right? He has plenty of upside, especially at his draft spot. He's getting disrespected as a first-round wide receiver. He's going at pick 144.5, which is somewhere in that 12th round range. And he feels eerily similar to a Ayuk and a Kadarius Toney the last 2 years. Ayuk having one of the best win rates ever. Kadarius Toney having a very positive win rate last year despite only having a couple of spike weeks. Jahan Dotson, again, not in love with him as a prospect, but the NFL saw him as a round 1 wide receiver. And you have Burks in London going around pick 70, Olave, Garrett Wilson going around pick 98, Jameson Williams going around pick 110, and then you have Dotson all the way at pick 144 in the 12th round. Again, this is a lot different in terms of acquisition cost from a late first in a rookie draft and a 12th round pick in a redraft league. Where in a managed league, you can cut him. In a best ball league, it's not the end of the world if he doesn't, produce. I think this ADP, we're probably a little bit too sure of our prospecting, recruiting type prowess here and just being overconfident that we are sure that he is not going to be good. In a year 1 window where I'm shooting for upside in the 12th round, I'm very much in on Dotson regardless of his profile. He doesn't have the best profile in the world. He's small. He's 178 pounds. I think he runs a 4.43. It's not a terrible profile. 4-year guy, didn't produce early. So nothing I'm in love with, but again, we see all the time bad prospects just become good. We just saw it with like Claypool a few years ago. We saw it with Ayuk a few years ago. It's really whatever. And for what it's worth, I honestly don't think that this is a terrible offense. I think that Carson Wentz is probably a lot better for Washington than they've had in past with like Taylor Heineke and Ryan Fitzpatrick. And Jahan Dotson's going to have every opportunity to be the second best wide receiver in that room, right? I think they have McLaurin, and then you're looking at like Curtis Samuel, Diami Brown, Logan Thomas. Like, again, Jahan Dotson, very much, if he is good, he will be able to perform early on. So I've actually been drafting quite a little bit of Jahan Dotson. Then moving on, we have Pickens. And this is an upside swing I absolutely love late. He goes at pick 154.8, which I believe is like 13th, 14th round, super late. And I get the situation is not great. He's going to have Pickett. He's going to have Trubisky at quarterback. Mike Clay, who I love his projections, he actually has the Steelers picking 6th overall next year with 6.1 projected wins. I feel like that's, I don't know. I don't know what Vegas has it at, but I feel like if you ask like a random fan, they wouldn't be like, yeah, Steelers are going to be picking in the top 6 next year. I also know that this offense already has Deontay Johnson, Claypool, Freiermuth, so you have like the classic, oh, there's too many mouths to feed kind of thing going on. But the Steelers in the past have been pretty decent at drafting wide receivers, and Mike Clay has them penciled in right now for top 10 in pass attempts. And we've also seen this wide receiver room be crowded before and have people emerge. We had Juju and Deontay Johnson, where then Claypool emerged out of nowhere. You had Antonio Brown, and I'm trying to think of who else was even on that team, but it might have been like Antonio Brown. I don't think Emmanuel Sanders was there at that time, but you had Antonio Brown, you had Juju sort of sprout up there. I want to say they had a decent tight end. I don't know if it was Ebron. It might have even been Vance McDonald, so I'm kind of talking about my ass. But we've seen guys not be the true number one for the Steelers and still come out there and have great rookie seasons in terms of win rate. And the reason I love Pickens is because his upside, or his profile, is simply an upside swing. And that's what we're trying to do with these rookie wide receivers. So that's why I kind of like that area. He is a 21-year-old early declare and is a prototypical X. Of the round 2 early declares that are gold prospects in my model, this is the list that it pulls up. You have Jordy Nelson, Jarvis Landry, Deshaun Jackson, Robert Woods, Juju, T. Higgins, Sidney Rice, Golden Tate. It's a really strong list. Now, again, there are some like ugly misses on there. You have Stephen Hill, Christian Kirk, KJ Hamler, Rondale Moore. There's plenty of opportunity for George Pickens to not perform this year and underperform that ADP. But at the price that you're paying for him, again, it's not the end of the world burning like a 14th round pick on George Pickens because he has such great upside. I think that he does have a Higgins-esque year one in him, where T. Higgins had a 13.3% win rate on a 12.29 point per game season, which was like not even a top 24 season. So I think that Pickens has that in his range of outcomes. He could spike in terms of his touchdowns. He could have a decent efficiency season. You could see one of the Steelers wide receivers get hurt. He has a lot of outs here, as well as him just having a pretty strong profile of just being this like mystery box guy that produced early declare, super young. He's got that like dog in him, which I really like as well, where he like was getting into like weird fights on the sideline in college. And I don't know if you guys have seen that video of like the NFL young boy thing, where he's just like sitting there posted in front of his TV screen while he got drafted. I love it. I think he's out of his damn mind. But again, that's sort of like with like wide receivers, like, and I hate to like stereotype wide receivers, but like a lot of them are like out of their mind. Like you have like Terrell Owens, Odell Beckham, Antonio Brown. Like a lot of the guys who are great are also insane. Now, when we're talking about our last wide receiver here, we're going to dig a little bit deeper. And a guy that I know a lot of you guys do not like is Wandale Robinson. Here's the issue. He is going at 185th overall on Underdog as a 16th round redraft pick. In managed leagues, you'll be able to get him with like your last pick. What we have to understand is when we transition from Dynasty to redraft is even if you weren't in on Wandale Robinson in Dynasty, the acquisition cost is way different. You're going from a guy who is usually going around like the mid to late second of rookie drafts where you're stuck with them for life versus a 16th round redraft pick that you can just cut after a couple weeks. He is super cheap. And the issue is here is just look how ugly this range of players is that you're getting Wandale Robinson in. He's going at pick 185 or 184.4 here. We're talking about Darrell Williams, Sammy Watkins, Curtis Samuel, Donovan Peoples-Jones up here. I mean, I like Odell and Evan Ingram in this range, but it's just not AJ Green. It's just not a pretty range at all. Hayden Hurst, like, I just don't know how you look at the options on the board and you just don't have some Wandale Robinson exposure. It's an ugly range. It feels like a lot of, pushing him down this far. Again, he was a second-round draft pick. He was drafted, I believe, ahead of Sky Moore, who's like a 7th or 8th round pick. And I get the situation. I love Sky Moore myself. But this feels like, again, the market just being super arrogant with like Amon-Ra St. Brown and Kadarius Toney and Brandon Ayuk, where we think we know more than we do. One-off like boom seasons and rookie years are super unexpected. At the end of the day, we don't know a ton about how these rookie wide receivers are actually going to pan out in terms of just year one perspective, right? Amon-Ra St. Brown came out of nowhere last year. We didn't think Waddle was going to be wide receiver 15. Same with Ayuk the year before that. Crazy things happen. Wandale grades out as a gold for me. His profile, he has a great production profile. I get that he's tiny. I get that he's like 5'7" or whatever, and people have a lot of pause with that. But if there's any coach I trust to utilize him correctly, it's Brian Daboll. Again, with like Rondale Moore last year, we needed a coaching staff to be able to use him correctly. He goes to the Cardinals. Cliff Kingsbury is just, in my eyes, he's like a fake sharp. He doesn't really know. I'm not going to say he doesn't know what he's doing, but his decision-making isn't great. His fourth down decisions aren't great. His run-pass splits aren't great. The way he runs the offense, where he doesn't like, it's a lot of like horizontal stuff. I just don't really love the way that he runs things on that team. Daboll, for me, is one of the sharpest offensive minds in the league, up there with like a Kyle Shanahan type guy or even like a McVay. Daboll is that good. They're going to definitely crank up their neutral pass game or pass rate. They're going to be more efficient on offense. I know they have just like Daniel Jones, and it's not the best in terms of weapons, but I think he's going to have every opportunity to be able to succeed. They don't have any tight ends. I think they're going to run a lot of 4 wide, where they go with like Toney, Galladay, Wandale, and then maybe like Darius Slayton. Depends how early Sterling Shepard can come back from his injury. But this is an offense with the Giants that's going to take a pretty good step forward this year in my eyes, right? They have Jason Garrett and Joe Judge leave. They have Brian Daboll coming in. He is going to run a very efficient offense where he utilizes everybody's strengths. So I don't think it'd be wild for Wandale towards the end of the season, over the last like 6 to 8 games, for him to be a fringe top 24 guy that you can, start in the flex. I think that's very much in his range of outcomes. And at that 16th round price tag, that's a huge payoff. Now that's going to do it for us today, fellas. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. If you want to get on redraft leagues early on, make sure you go on underdog.com or underdogfantasy.com. I'll have that link where you can just click on the link and it'll take you right to my promo code where you can go deposit and have some fun and some best ball drafts right from the link. So that'll be down below in the description. That'll be down below in the comments. As always, I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one.
I got the juice, I got the juice.
Channel, Chatham's on. Foolies glad I'm home. Even my haters kinda glad I'm on. Rest in peace to my vagabond. Rapper song, singer, suspended, subpoena from Mr. Meaner.